we've done a lot of work on our world map, right? Like we really had to define how the world map works for the first time with Diablo IV, because it is an open world with all of these activities you can get to. It needs to effectively show you all of these cool things you can do without turning into a task list of like, well, I guess I gotta do this. There are 30 flags, I guess I gotta do all 30 of these flags here. So really finding that balance and also making sure that we're communicating important things about the world, like, well, there's a mountain range that runs between these two areas. It's really important that the player knows that, so they're not like running along the coast like, how do I get down here, And that needs to come through on the map. So we've done a lot of iteration on how the map can show all the exciting things that you can do, making sure that the map isn't just turning into a checklist, and also the visual design of the map in terms of like being consistent with the overall art design of the world and having that kind of aspect of like an old map that it feels like a part of the world's fantasy, but still is accurate and useful the way that you would expect maps to be in the modern day.
Right. It even has a GPS system.
Yes.
I guess that's the next level.
Huh?
The next level of the game.
We're in a game?
Yes, Grandpa Eddie, we are in a game.
You can't be serious.
The big thing I think is worth clarifying is around the story is that, one of the concerns about sort of putting open world in a big neon sign and flashing that sign is that people have that notion of the Breath of the Wild kind of, it's completely organic and I can go anywhere and do anything and eventually I can figure it out that's not really our story, right? Our story allows for non-linearity, but there is a story. We wanted to have a beginning, middle, and end. We wanted to start at a certain place, we want it to end at a certain place. And so it's more of a branching story, and you can choose kind of what order you want to play the branches. And so there's a pretty quick early decision on, once you get past the prologue, of I actually want to go start Act 3 first. And I want to play all the Act 3 story before then I go play Act 1, and then I go play Act 2. And so if I replay the story, I can go and do now Act 2 first versus Act 3 versus Act 1. So there's sort of branches and come back, branches and come back, versus this it's all over the place and you can kind of, and so I think it's worth clarifying that's kind of, when we talk about sort of the freedom of choice around the story, it's really those sorts of things. You can actually not pursue the story for a while, and that's the nice thing about the open world is there's a lot of side quests, there's a lot of things in the world that you can go and do that aren't on the campaign sort of golden path. And the fact is just that the golden path is a branching path that you can decide when you want to do those branches and in what order. The thing that we really clued in on was this notion, when we were trying to figure out how best to talk about it, there's every inch is built for combat was kind of a phrase that came to mind, which is that was really how it was designed. We didn't design an open world where it was we expect a lot of travel here and we need you to do a lot of downtime here, go play poker over here and go fishing over here. It was really about, we wanted to have that basically anywhere in the open world you could stop, a monster could attack you and you could fight there, right? And so when you're working at a density that allows for that, that's a different type of open world, that at any moment in any place you could have a fight. And so that kind of changed how we thought about the design and how you move between the zones and how all that stuff plays out. So that's really it's kind of calibrated for action in terms of the open world.
Yeah, in fact, at one point it was too dense. And so we dialed it back a little bit. We didn't want to have an experience where you were sort of riding through miles of empty terrain to get to cool stuff. We wanted to have all of the world have exciting and interesting things to do. So if you go into, if you decide to do Act 3 first, maybe you're playing through the campaign a second time, and this time you wanted to do Act 3 the first, you're going to have different experiences. It's going to be a little bit more challenging, and you're going to be playing through in a different area of the world and seeing strongholds, seeing all of the open world features there. And as you're going through it, there's lots of stuff to do, whether you're mounted or you're riding or you're navigating through on foot. But when we actually had so much stuff that getting through it on a mount was challenging, and so we had to say like, okay, let's make sure that the roads actually are connect to good places and are a good way to travel through this area, so that you can get to places that you're going expediently, and also have the opportunity to go off the path and see interesting things.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I really like with the renowned system, that ability to sort of like plays into each zone where you can go and you're going exploring, looking for hidden caches, and you're going and completing certain side quests, and you're looking for certain strongholds, to sort of say, okay, this zone's done, and I get benefits of that, of okay, I'm going to get skill points that I can actually, on my alt, I automatically start with 6 skill points, and so I've sort of accelerated my alt progression. But I think that's part of the open world we wanted was, again, as we think about choice, whether it be choice of class and choice of how you look and choice of your skills and choice of your paragon, like that ability to, whether you turn left, turn right, turn around, that's all up to you. And so you can kind of go and explore the world and go after those, what's most important. Do I want to go and do dungeons? Am I going to do world events? Am I going to go do local events? Am I taking on a world boss? Am I, and so that sort of notion of having the freedom of choice, but still having that sort of directionality is really, I think is really important. And that's something when working on Gears 5, we added a sort of bowls, like large bowls that were pseudo open world in Gears 5. And we met with a bunch of open world designers, people who worked on Red Dead, people who worked on Tomb Raider. And they always said like it's a little bit of an illusion, is that people want to have, they say they want open world and free choice, but they also want to be told where to go. And so that was one they talked about in Tomb Raider, is that when there's like a road and the road would end, but if you went straight, you would go to where they want you to, but the world was open to you. But you knew if you went straight, that would be the path. And so that's kind of, in some ways, our story is that guidepost. Like, where the campaign wants you to go, and where the campaign, you always have a place to come home. Like, you always know, oh, if I go off going crazy for a while and I go and do strongholds and events and open world exploration and at the end of the day, you go like, okay, I've been doing this for a while. Okay, quests, okay, that's where I have to go in the campaign, and I can get back on the rail and know where, get back on the storyline and go back to doing that. And so to me, it's a great mixture of that notion of like playing through a story, but also having the ability to go wherever you want, whenever you want.